Hello, Professor B back at you. Today we're going to take a look at a way we can give our writing more meaning and make it easier to read for our readers, and that is by using punctuation. And in particular, today we'll be talking about the use of the comma. This particular episode is called Fun with Commas. So, without further ado, let's dive in and see how we use them appropriately, effectively, and efficiently in our writing.
All right, let us take a look at our rules for working with commas. We have a short slide deck again. We, that means I, all my personalities together have created this. Fun with commas, let's dive in. There are, in the English language, 15 rules for how we place commas in our writing. This talk will cover several of them, and there will be an accompanying handout for the class that will list all of the rest of them if they're not covered here. So our very first rule, we put commas when we join independent clauses and coordinating conjunctions. We've talked about this a couple times before, but we put it before the coordinating conjunction and we connect our two independent clauses together. Here's an example of that. Most people think the avocado is a vegetable, independent clause, comma, coordinating conjunction, yet it is actually a fruit. Perfect. It's okay to obey this rule like it says, even if the clauses are short. I was smart. I knew it. Our two very short independent clauses, but we still follow the rule. We do not put a comma between a single subject performing two actions. In this case, Sam wrote and mentioned, and we use the coordinating conjunction but. Okay? There is no subject after the but, so we do not need a comma here because Sam is doing two things. There is no subject on this end. Don't get confused by that. Our next one, and this is a big one, I see this most often in young writers like yourselves, we must set off or isolate our introductory words, phrases, or clauses from the rest of the sentence by a comma. It's a natural break. Okay. When Miss Katie died, comma, our whole town went to her funeral, or if it's just a single word, typically, comma, we pause there when we're talking. Classes are 50 minutes long at Montana Tech, with the exception of our class, which is 75 minutes long and meets only twice a week. We use the serial or Oxford comma in technical writing, and we separate items in a series or list by commas. Now, the series items can be words, they can be phrases, or they can be clauses. Each fall, introductory word or phrase, so we need our comma there. I always pick apples, comma, cherries, comma, and peaches, period. That's the end of our sentence. Now, I always point out here that we need this Oxford comma or serial comma to make sure that we understand and our readers understand we're talking about three things: apples, cherries, and peaches. If we take this comma out, we're talking about two groups, apples and then cherries and peaches together. Make sure you always use your Oxford or serial comma when writing in this class. And as you go forward, the energetic dog ran around the post, phrase, jumped over the fence, phrase, and picked up the ball, phrase. Okay? We separate each item in our list by the comma. When we are isolating non-essential elements in our sentence, we use commas. Which is a Romance language, in this case, is a non-essential element. If we remember back to those pronouns that we are non-restrictive, non-essential to the sentence, we precede them with a comma. In this case, we do the same thing. We could just say Spanish is one of 6 official languages at the UN, but we want to give it a little extra, which it does not restrict it any further, but gives us value added. It's like adding salt and pepper to our sentence. Gives us a little more flavor. So Spanish, comma, which is a Romance language, comma, is one of the 6 official languages. Remember, when this occurs in the middle of the sentence, you must put a comma at both ends. If it occurs at the end, obviously there is just one that precedes it. We use commas to set off what's called parenthetical information, or anything that interrupts the flow of our sentences. With as little as 2 servings of vegetables a day, it seems to me, you can improve your eating habits. Again, much like the previous example, it seems to me could be left out, but it adds a little bit extra to our sentence. We do this when we want to set off transitional expressions. We must employ our comma use again. A transition, some examples here are listed: thus, nevertheless, however, instead, etc., etc. Okay? Let's look at an example. The real world, comma, however, comma, is not as forgiving. Okay? Pretty easy to use. Comma precedes and succeeds our transitional expression. However, there is an exception to this rule. If the transition connects 2 independent clauses, we're making our compound sentence, but we're connecting it with a transitional expression. In this case, you see instead, we would use a semicolon instead of the comma here. Okay? 2 independent clauses, use a semicolon. When we set off our direct address, yes or no, interjections, and tag questions, all parts of the speech that sometimes need to be put into writing. Direct address, let's look at an example of that. If I'm recording a speech, yes, Portia, I received your assignment on time. The direct address part is right here. We are directly addressing somebody named Portia. Yes, comma, Portia, comma, I received your assignment on time. A yes or no. No, comma, you cannot successfully sleep standing up. My high school geography teacher said adamantly that this was the case. It was always in the afternoon after lunch in a warm room, so if we felt sleepy, he would make us stand up next to the edge of the room because he thought we couldn't fall asleep standing up. There were a few of us that proved him wrong. Interjections. Oh is an interjection, comma, a PS4. Is it awesome? Now here is an interesting example. Is this a sentence? Sometimes I throw these things into my slide decks to make you think. Does it have a subject? Yeah. PS4, does it have a verb? No. This is actually a phrase. So avoid that in your actual writing. But sometimes we speak this way, right? A tag question. That wasn't so hard. And then we tag a question on the end of it. Was it? Comma. We must separate it by a comma. The fun part, using addresses. You must mail your payment to, and then we include a comma after the place, the street address, the city, and the state before the zip code when including it in a sentence. Now, if we were addressing an envelope, right, this comma would not be here. So in writing, in paragraphs, etc., sentences, you must mail your payment to Montana Tech, comma, 1300 West Park Street, comma, Butte, comma, Montana, comma, and then the zip code. Likewise, if there was a country here, you would also set it off by a comma. Place names. Three Forks, comma, Montana, comma. This is our subject. Is a famous stop for Lewis and Clark enthusiasts. Pretty simple. Dates. We include a comma after the day. So we spell out month, day, comma, and then the year on something happened. Our professor was born on January 1st, 1972. How about that? I was. So whoever made this, oh wait, it was me. I'm getting old. Right? There are some places where we do not put commas. And these are, again, part of those 15 rules we talked about very early on in this. We never put commas between the subject and verb. Don't do it. I'll catch it every time, and you'll lose points for it. 1, it looks silly. 2, it doesn't make any sense. We never put a verb or put a comma. We never put a verb. We never put a comma between a verb and its object or complement. So we wouldn't say Becky threw, comma, the ball, right? It doesn't make any sense. We do not put our commas after our coordinating conjunctions. Remember when we're making our compound sentence, we do independent clause, comma, coordinating conjunction, second independent clause. We do not put the coordinate or the comma after that. We don't put commas after like or such as. If it needs to happen, it would go before. And then we never put commas after a question mark or exclamation point. Okay? Easy breezy, lots of fun, short and sweet. These are the rules for working with commas, and stay tuned for some closing comments.
Well, that was interesting. Who knew there were 15 rules for working with commas? Much like there are 88 keys on a piano, there are 15 rules working with commas, and now you are familiar with most of them. So hopefully you enjoyed it. It's a quick video, and we will have the option to use them as we go forward in our writing this week and for the remaining part of the semester and your professional writing career. So, wonderful. Professor B out. Stay tuned next time.